Bloom's taxonomy is basically a framework to decide training objectives. And as you can see here on the screen, I'm putting it in a very simple language. So we're all into the business of instructions. We're all into the business of teaching and training. Or educating, And education, when I say education, it has got different objectives. Or we are into the business of knowledge delivery, knowledge transmission, whatever you call it, or education. Now, this process has got different objectives. Some information I want to share with you because I want you to remember that. So my objective here is not, my objective here of giving that instruction is so that you go and remember that sometime in the future. Another objective of my training would be I want to make you understand that, the concept. For example, what I'm doing, right? My objective is to make you understand what Bloom's taxonomy is. So I'm operating at level number 2, as you can see. My objective is to make you understand. The third objective could be I want you to apply that in your day-to-day life or real life. So my objective is a little different. And then the next level would be I want you to analyze it. Okay. For instance, you go and you apply all these skills in your training. And after doing this for a couple of times, you yourself will develop, or through an upskilling program, you will realize how to analyze your own training or how to analyze someone else's training. A specialist in Bharatanatyam, for you and me, Bharatanatyam is what we see generally, unless you have learned it. We don't understand really which step has gone wrong or what step has gone right. But a specialist would come, really will catch that. Oh, that was a wrong step. Similarly, in all those talent shows where people sing, there are expert judges sitting on the other side of the fence and they're analyzing. So as laymen, we would enjoy a song and go. But then these experts would come and specifically figure out the areas where the singer has gone wrong, the dancer has not performed well. So that's a level of competence where they're analyzed. Then there is another higher level which called evaluate. Not only analyze, but also evaluate, judge. They are capable of bringing a comparative perspective. Not only they would analyze what's wrong and right, but they'll also be able to evaluate. They would put up the standards and would compare performance with the required standards. That's what they evaluate, they judge. And then there would be a level, the highest of the level is called create. So my objective here, today's session, the educational objective here is so that you can go and create a highly engaging training program. So at trainings, you have different, so this framework which decides educational objectives or training objectives, that framework is called Bloom's taxonomy. It was, since it was introduced by a famous educationist and educational psychologist, John Bloom's, if I'm not wrong. But this concept gets its name from the person who has really studied this. Now, why you need a Bloom's taxonomy? Because Bloom's taxonomy will also help you to chunk down your entire effort of educating someone at different levels and make this and then make the entirely the difficult what seems as a difficult thing, it makes it very easy. Okay. Now imagine a situation where you have a topic and there are 5 different subtopics. Okay. So just take the case of our own case. I'm talking about Bloom's taxonomy, and my objective here is to make you understand. Just make you understand what this is. Okay. The next thing that I would be doing is my objective would be to make you apply this idea into your training program. So in the same session, my objectives changes. So what looks like a huge a mammoth training program, you can chunk that down into small pieces and what we call small objectives with the help of this framework. Okay. And to identify what the objectives are, there came a list of verbs. Well, these verbs were initially not the part of Bloom's taxonomy. They were added later. Bloom's taxonomy, to support objectives at different level, a list was created and a list of action verbs were created to define each sections. Okay. And I want to show you that. So remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, create. So remember, if you want to really use that objective, you can say, what is the objective of this session? The objective is to define is a verb, or to memorize, to help learners memorize 20 verb. Bloom's taxonomy verb can be an objective of a session that I conduct. Then I can use verbs like classify, describe, discuss, explain. These are the verbs that you can use to define objectives at level number 2, where you want to make others understand. For example, one of the objectives of the session is to discuss Bloom's taxonomy. It's make you understand. And when you go up there, apply, you can use words like execute, implement, solve, apply, demonstrate, interpret, operate. These are some of the verbs. But you use a different set of verbs to define various educational objectives. And these verbs would differentiate one objective from the other. And why do we need Bloom's taxonomy? We need Bloom's taxonomy to simplify. Number 1, to simplify our teaching. Number 2, to make it more measurable and specific. I'll not mix up things into one. I'll keep different objectives at different time. Okay, say in one case, my objective ends if they can remember it. Done. In another session, my objectives end, or I achieve my objectives if the learners have understood. So I'll take a quiz and check whether they understood. Oh, they have understood. Objectives done. So I'm looking at the highest level of the objectives, and these are called remembering to creating, from lower level thinking order to higher order thinking, lower order thinking to higher order thinking. For example, writing is a higher order thinking skills. You have to articulate ideas and put it on a piece of paper. It's not everyone's cup of tea. Knowing and speaking is easy, relatively easier. And for that reason, speaking is also not that, because you have to produce it. Okay. So words are basically tools, and taxonomy is basically a framework.